Greetings, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Jay Tucker, and I run the Center for Media, Entertainment, and Sports at the Business School at UCLA. Today, we're doing something very special that we haven't done before, which is that we're going to have a digital fireside chat with two amazing executives in the entertainment space, hosted by a friend and partner of ours, Morris Lucas, in an effort to launch a partnership between UCLA and the schools that are part of the Atlanta University complex, Clark Atlanta, Spelman, Morehouse, in the hopes that we can get students more interested in careers in entertainment, media, sports, and across the spectrum, right? So whether we're talking about music, video games, esports, and some non-traditional entertainment roles, as well as the traditional kind of film, television, music, publishing, and so on, right? The goal here is to hopefully allow you to have a chance to learn a little bit more about how the sausage is made, but more importantly, how folks found themselves in their careers and the connection between some of the innovation and change that's happening in the industry and what that means for opportunities and maybe some challenges with respect to individual roles. With that, I'm going to step back because Morris is the person who's going to be your host for the day. And is the expert in this space today. So Morris, thank you so much for joining us. Guest, Brian, Nak, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation, and take it away.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you on behalf of Artist Spotlight. I really appreciate the opportunity that UCLA actually has given us. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you all Brian Vickers, who's a music supervisor for companies such as Walt Disney and others. And I also like to introduce a character animation artist, Nak Yong Choi, who also has done work for Cartoon Network, Disney, and others. So please welcome those guys. Guys, how are you doing?
Good.
Great. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Welcome. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining in on this initiative. We have some questions for you guys, and then I'm sure so the viewers and our followers are going to be anxious to hear what you have to say on these issues. So let's jump right into it. Y'all guys ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. Got you. So, and we'll do this kind of thing where if you guys want to jump in, we don't have to have a specific person. This can be directed towards Brian, you, Nak, you, or both. So you can all chime in. So as we're mostly this initiative is garnered to HBCUs and those type of schools. Let's start with back at that level, at the college level. Did either of you go that route to college? If so, where? What did you study? And what kind of got you in going to the entertainment industry while you were in school?
I can hop in on that one. What's happening, everyone? My name is Brian Vickers. Incredibly glad to be here. But yes, I attended HBCU as well. First and foremost, I want to shout out my mom because she went to Miles College in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm from Birmingham. Okay. So all of the schools that I was considering were, for the most part, HBCUs. It was between Tennessee State, Hampton. Morehouse was kind of in the mix, so shout out to Morehouse. And Fisk. But I ended up going to Howard University in DC. I got there and I majored in vocal performance with jazz studies. I was a music major. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Fantastic. Yeah. So, when I was graduating from high school, I told my parents, I want to do animation. And they're like, how dare you? You dishonor our family. You should be a lawyer, doctor, or a businessman. And I ended up going to University of Hawaii, majoring in fine arts, just drawing, starting there. And then my parents would tell all their friends, oh, he's going to be a doctor. He's going to be a lawyer. So I had that. And then on my third year there, I saw this, fourth year at University of Hawaii, I saw this newspaper article saying CalArts is one of the top 3 animation schools in the country. And I met this awesome teacher who really encouraged me to apply to CalArts. So I ended up applying, getting accepted, and going there for CalArts character animation program.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing, guy. Yeah, your story is something, Nak. I always get inspired by that, man. It's just like, wow.
Right.
It was a real struggle.
You got 2 choices.
Yeah, also like my parents, like they had no money. So when I got accepted and college is a private school, they're like, good luck. So I had to get student loans, and also my parents make negative income on their business. So I had to maximize my student loans and work 3 part-time jobs and send money to them of the scholarships I learned to help them to survive while trying to pursue my dreams.
Oh, man, you're a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like in anything you pursue is going to be hard. But if you pursue with all your heart and determination that your dreams will come true, it will come true. I had to eat chicken tenders, dollar rice and beans for 4 years, ramen noodles, those 20 cents ones. I was so poor where the chicken flavor was every day. Something good happened, I'll eat the beef flavor.
Oh,
and on
that's the
special
celebration.
occasions, I'll add some hot sauce and eat it with my shrimp noodles. That's how poor I was. And I just broke down one day and just cried my eyes out. I was like, I'm so dumb. Why am I following my dreams? And it was like 4 a.m. in the morning. And there was a janitor there, and she saw me crying. She was like, "No, what's wrong?" And I was like, "My mom's sick, my dad's sick. Our toilet exploded in our apartment, so we had to pay for the damages on the downstairs neighbor." And I sent all my money. I sent, and I'm broke. I cannot eat for like the next couple of weeks. Why did I pursue my dream? Poor people like me shouldn't pursue a dream. And the janitor said, "Just wait here, Nak." And she came back with a check and wrote me $300 and said, "Don't ever question your dream again. Keep going." And that just set me on a path to never question it and just keep going, share that love and compassion and, just build people wherever I go. Yeah.
Oh, man. The janitor.
Changed my life.
The story.
That changed my life. Yeah. And I still keep in touch with her to this day. Yeah.
Wow. And I gotta say, because you know this, Brian, because coming from the yard, I stayed in Slow Hall at Howard. You think, come on, man, you think you're doing bad, but you gotta, oh man, how am I gonna make this next tuition bill? How am I gonna buy six, whatever? Like that's the struggle. Like he just told you the struggle. Like, I can't even imagine like taking care of a family and trying to get through my own stuff. And shout out to you, Nak. I mean, that's incredible.
That's heavy. That's heavy.
So you can't say, all of you listening, you can't say there's no way, because that kind of level of responsibility on top of trying to get your, do your studies and pursue your goals. If he can do it like with that story, you can, definitely he can do it.
Oh, so, it's doable, guys. Oh yeah.
Thanks for being transparent with that, Nak. Let's go back for a second. Brian, let's start with you. Let's tell us, actually, you're a music supervisor. Let's tell us and break down what is your job entails. What does a music supervisor do? Because there's a lot of things people think that it is, but what exactly is that entail?
Sure. Well, just to give a brief synopsis of my job, I currently work as a music supervisor for Disney's in-house trailer team called The Hive. We specifically work on theatrical marketing. Like technically it falls under the envelope of marketing. So what we do is it's our goal to try to get you to go see our movies. It's really that simple. And on the music side, my job is to find music to fit these trailers to help. It's storytelling. We want to tell the best story that we can in a very short amount of time. You guys know a trailer is probably about 2 minutes and about 30 seconds, maybe 3 minutes, 2:30 to 3 minutes. I have that short amount of time to get you to go see our movie and to make you think that not only should you go see it, but you will enjoy this film and you will have a great time, or you will be horrified. We'll scare you. We'll make you scream, shout, whatever you want to do. But on a day-to-day basis, I work with composers. I work with libraries. I work with music libraries. We work with folks who specialize in trailers, because I'm on the trailer side. It's a very specific sound that we normally go after. It ranges. It ranges from, of course, the day to day. If I'm on the lot, I can actually go in offices with editors and work with our creative team, because what people don't really know about the job, you mentioned the things that people think. They think, oh, well, you pick all the music, the end, happily ever after. And that's not nearly the case. We merely are the liaison between the creative team that we work with, whether it's editors, our producers. And when I say producers, I don't mean music producers. I mean literally the people who are producing whatever the campaign is. Them, eventually our creative director, eventually the filmmaker, because it has to go all the way up that chain. We're liaisons between all those people and the creative people who do the music. So that's music producers, composers, you know, libraries, publishers, or whoever. So we're right in the middle. And sometimes we have to tell the creative people, hey, what is it that you guys are looking for? Well, we want something that sounds like this and feels like this. All right, cool. And then we have to go back to them. Here's what we need to create. So we're right in the middle. And like I said, our goal is just to make sure that whatever music shows up in the trailer is ultimately, it's our goal to make the client happy, which in turn hopefully makes you guys want to go see the film.
Awesome. Now, as far as the trailer, so you mentioned there was a specific type of music. That's actually interesting to me. So because I'm sure there's a different type of supervisor that has to deal with what happens during the actual movie, as opposed to the trailer. So that's very interesting. And again, and that's why these chats are so important, because you don't know what you don't know, right? I mean,
right. Right, right.
And this stuff is just common knowledge. You have to kind of dig in a little bit. Yeah. And when I've interviewed visual effects people and people like Nak, is that, you know, there's I know a person who works in post-production, but he doesn't do a bit of editing, you know, so it's great that, you know, getting this knowledge out there to people who want to be students that want to be in. So, you know, it's not just the cameraman, the screenwriter, it's them, 300 other people. So,
hey, whenever I always tell people, if ever there's any doubt, just stay till after the credits, the part where you are leaving, or if you're at home and you change the channel, all of those people had to help make that one project happen. So that means a couple things. It means it takes a lot of people, but it also means there are a lot of jobs that you can potentially consider if this is something that you're interested in.
That's right. Now, what about you? Give me your rundown of your daily job and career in your niche, which is more animation.
Sounds good. So I worked as a concept artist for the Walt Disney Studios at the Studio Lab. So I helped to design and create various narratives and projects using AR, augmented reality, VR, virtual reality, as well as using AI, artificial intelligence. Currently, I'm developing some projects as a art director for Oculus and Netflix. So developing new shows. So my thing is about developing what's to come. And we are the one that comes with, we're beaten down with a lot of no's and rejections. And we, you know, the deadline's approaching. And we'll like go to like Brian, so like, please help us. Like you're our last hope, you know. And then Brian and his team are the magicians that makes all this work together. It's like, yes, like that's why we did this, you know. So they're the ray of our sunshine at the end of the tunnel. You really are. You guys are lifesavers. So yeah, like coming up with the stories, looking at the current affairs of things. And how can we tell the narrative that is important of today to inspire and architect the days of tomorrow? So I think that's the main thing of developing shows and telling stories of humanity.
Okay, awesome. Well, so let's thanks for that, Nak. Let's talk about what would be, because you know our audience is going to be primarily students in college. Tell me how internships, to your knowledge, can be beneficial in getting your foot in the door, and how once you're in these internships, how can you leverage these opportunities to their fullest potential? If either of you have done internships before you got into your roles, or you've had interns, worked around them, can you dig into a little bit of that, either of you?
Nak, you want to take this one?
I have a very different approach in that I saw two different things. So a lot of my friends did intern, and they had such a fantastic way. And the main takeaway at the internship was to meet someone new every day. Whether it's you don't really like work together or anything like that, just go out of your way to just connect with someone new. And nowadays with COVID, you can do it through emails. You can do it through messaging. Just say like, hi, I'm a new person here. Would love to connect. And internship is kind of like the doorway to that connection to someone that you might not have never had access to. For me, when I asked my professors like, oh, should I intern? And they told me, no, instead of interning, go teach. Because when you teach, you're going to be able to build on your leadership skills, and you're able to build on your patience and your communication skills. So for a lot of people, yes, you're going to have a lot of great internship moments. For those who don't get the internships, I want to share that it's okay. And the time that you have will be a moment for you to figure yourself out. Don't compare yourself to other people's journey, but notice how beautiful and unique your journey is and focus on that. With the internship, yes, this is really great, but also has so many students who cold message me, cold email me. They just say, hi, Nak, I'm just randomly saying like, hey, can I grab lunch with you? Could we grab coffee? And, I'll just like to pick your brain on it. And I would treat them to dinners and we'll grab coffee together and I'll help them connect to their next job. So I think the internship, a lot of people complain like, don't do internship if it's like unpaid. But I've also saw so many successes of non-paid internship. So ultimately, any experience that comes to you is what you make out of it. You can have the best internship, but if you're going to close off and just like, oh, just come on, someone just feed me, that's not going to work. You need to be driven and know that you can set the path as you desire if you have the kindness and the empathy and the compassion to go for what it is that you seek. Brian?
Yeah, man. Well, it's clear that Nak is an angel, if you will, folks. Please remember this, because I say that to be honest, like his approach is so unique because you don't see a lot of that in what is a very competitive field and what can be really honestly heart-wrenching at times. But my experience, there's some similarity there with what he just mentioned. My experience was when I was in school, my sophomore year, I had a friend who was a little bit older than me, and he would tell me, like, he was like another mentor type even then. And he was like, look, man, if you're working, or if you're out here doing your music thing, it'd be a good idea for you to look into internships. And I'm like, I hear people talk about that, but I'm a performance major. I just perform. I can't, where do I go? Like perform at a restaurant as an internship and just tell them to not pay me? His thing was, no, find whoever it is that you're interested in as an artist and go work at that label. So I was like, it's a good idea. At the time, I was really into this artist, Jill Scott. Y'all would know her. And as a result of that, one day I went on the record. I went on the her label website and was like, what label is she on? Oh, okay, Hidden Beach. All right, cool. And I began to look to see, like, do they have an internship program? Sure enough, they did. I signed up for that. And as a result of that, it was literally a life-changing decision, because I ended up meeting a lot of the friends that I met through there are still friends today, and they still work in the industry. And the cool part about it is I literally went from an environment where we're talking about singing and we're talking about music to learning about radio promotion, learning about what are marketing demographics, what are, how do you effectively get new music out there, and how can you help an artist? So it ranged from anything to like learning about A&R, understanding what A&R's job is, because I know that's another job that one day, we got to have a conversation about. Everybody wants to be an A&R, but don't know what the job is. But anyway, but learning what that is, learning, promotions, learning all of these different things. So yeah, I got that internship back then. That it ended up, super long story short, going through the bio, but that ended up opening the door for me eventually working for the Grammys. And later on in life, that ended up my job that I have now. I got into sync because when I went down to Full Sail, because after I finished Howard, I went to Full Sail. When I got down there and moved to LA, I was actively like, man, whatever internship I can get, I just want to be in the industry.
Paid or unpaid, or just paid or unpaid?
Paid or unpaid, man. I was living with my uncle. I just wanted to get in. So when I first started, because the Hidden Beach thing was unpaid. Most of the internships that I've done have all been unpaid. I worked under a producer, a music producer who, worked with, younger acts, like young, child acts. I did not get paid for that. It was exciting. as in I wish I got paid for that, but whatever. But the point is, it's the experience. And I personally hope that you all are going to be in a position where a lot of companies are going to pay you, because you should get paid. I personally have pushed back, against folks that argue against it. But I do think that if folks are working for you in any, type of regard, that they should get paid. Once again, different conversation. But when I got out here, I worked as a intern. And that is ultimately what led to when I first got my job. I was unpaid, or I was an intern. And that ended up being going into music coordinator, eventually music supervisor at a couple of different companies. So it definitely matters. Even if you're interning in a position that's not what you want to do, good. Then you learn what you want to do and what you don't want to do and what you're passionate about and what you think, well, let's try something else. But all of it matters. All of it is relevant. It all can lead you to where you're ultimately trying to go.
That's awesome. You guys gave so much there. I have to delve into that a little bit because it's important, especially since UCLA and with the programs they have. And the students that are watching this, two things that from Nak and Brian. One thing that Nak mentioned is that being closed in and waiting for somebody to feed you and to kind of pour into you. And please don't do that, because you can get what you get. You might meet some people, but you're going to get out of these internships what you put in. If you're going to sit there and, do your job or file papers or whatever, or send emails, then they're going to do that. But you're going to have to be the one to step up and say, and meet the people in the other departments and ask if you can be of help. Can you stay later? What's going on? Are there any projects? And if you don't, you'll get an internship, you get college credit, but that may be all you get if you don't take the initiative to go out. And I've seen it, I've experienced it. So please look at it as you're in the position, it's your time at bat. Are you going to stay in the corner and just do your little, exactly what you're told, or are you going to do extra? Right?
Be collaborative. You have to be collaborative.
It has to be. To what Brian and I was saying about the unpaid, be very, very, because I know they're being nice about it, right? Be very, very cautious about the paid internship, because if you do that, you literally may take the course of your entire life for a couple of bucks that you might make for an internship. It's the opportunities. He worked at Hidden Beach that propelled his, Brian probably can't even quantify what that one unpaid internship is giving him, right?
I was my trajectory.
Yeah, it changed the trajectory of your life. I remember being at Howard and Sean Diddy Combs would park right at the Blackburn Center, right when he was starting Bad Boy. And I should have said, can I work for free? What I did say is, do you have any jobs? Two different entirely questions, right? You don't know if the company is young and they're going to be the biggest thing. You don't know. And it could be you work for an intern for a month and something opens up. So just be very careful about the paid thing, I would say, because yes, it's great to be paid, but what that is in the bigger picture to what you can do it's not even a comparison when you weigh it. So that's my 2 cents on that. But thanks, guys, for that. Let's talk about this. Speaking of, so you're both now, you got into the industry, went through a couple companies, a couple different projects. What was both of your biggest realization about the media industry that you learned, that you saw, that when you were on the outside looking in, you would say, oh, I didn't know it was like this, or some kind of a realization that you kind of accepted once you were in?
Man, shoot. Nak, you want to take this
Either one of you.
So when I graduated from CalArts, I was very blessed where I got to direct for Disney Junior, and I was traumatized. And the reason why, because is I realized that, when I was at school, I just create. I was like, ta-da, this is my work. But at Disney, it was like, I create this. It has to go through 5 different departments of executives' approval. And then they have to give you okay to move on. So what happens is, like, I'll do this one design thing, right? And then it will take anywhere from a week to 2-3 months to get this approved, to get the okay. And then at the same time, like, our team is like going, like, we're just like keep rolling and stuff. And then like 3 months later, one executive is like, no, that's not gonna work. So to restart all over. So imagine as a director, I go to my artists and I'm like, you guys are doing great. This is fantastic. Next minute, we have to start over. And then you get blamed for it. and you go into these meetings, and then you're like, you're doing your thing, and then the executives are like, no, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. No, no, that's not gonna work. You have to do this, and they give you like the standards, which I understand. You have to follow the standards of the practices in different television networks. But at the same time, one thing I learned was in my beginning of my career, I became a yes man. I just said yes to everything. Never really questioned or did my voice thing. So I kind of lost myself. And then the project I was looking at, I was like, what project is this? Is this me? And then the funny thing is, if the project is really well, it's doing good, the executives will be like, oh, that was me. That was my idea, Right. If it sucks, they'll be like, that was not. What were you thinking?
Man.
Why did you do that? What's wrong with you? And then in the back of my head, it's like, you told me that I have to put that in, or I'll be let go. And I had this like fear of like, I'm gonna get fired. And I remember, imagine like getting hundreds of these notes every day, and some things you forget about it, so to like retract that, what kind of work that was. And I received this one note saying, hey, can you change this hair of this character this way? And that was that butterfly on this like huge weight I had that had everything crumbled down. And I just walked out of the studio and I just cried my eyes out. I was like, I shouldn't be a director. Like this is crazy. How does anyone handle this? And then at the end of the day, I went to this BAFTA Awards. It was just like a film awards thing. And I met Pete Docter. He directed for Inside Out, everything.
Soul coming up.
And here's me scrawny, like crying animator. And I was like, hey Pete, can I talk to you for a second? And he was like so gracious, like, hey Pete, this is my first time directing this short thing. I'm crying every day. Do you have any notes for me? And Pete goes, I just cried too today. I'm working on this Inside Out thing, and I was just told that I cannot have my main character to be sadness. So I had to redo my whole script that I've been working on for the past 6 months. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, thank you. Like, I'm not alone. I thought I was
he goes through it too.
You go through it. And it's just that. It's like learning the game. And like, do you let the game destroy you, or do you figure out a way on how can you find your voice and how can you stay true to yourself? So I think that was the main thing of like, how can you, in this world of craziness and the structure they have, how can you still shine your light when you feel like you can't? And ultimately, it's that patience, love for yourself, and realizing the taste that you have, the things you like really honor that. And you'll find yourself eventually.
Yeah. If I can quickly piggyback on everything. Yeah. Once again, the guy is an angel, man. Come on. I agree 1,000%, man. I think that before you get in, what you think media and entertainment works like, oh, it's busy, it's whatever, but you don't anticipate there may be times where you get a phone call on a holiday. You may get a phone call when you are good and comfortable. When at one of my earlier jobs, I literally would work. I would get in at about 9 or so, probably leave at about 10, get home. You get a phone call, hey, we need you're going right back. And my wife is a singer-songwriter. She's a full-time singer-songwriter. There would be times where she has gigs or had gigs, and I would be her roadie, basically. I have to go take her piano and run the sound sometimes. Get home, you're comfortable. Hey, we need you to come back in. I don't think people really understand that media, it's ever evolving beast. It changes a lot. I will say two things to that. Yes, it works very hard. I think this younger generation, a lot of cats that are in college right now, y'all are almost programmed to work. No, I think that's going to become a very powerful tool, is understanding when to shut it down, when to rest, when to take a breather, because otherwise it's just going to be constant bombardment. And I always make this very dark joke, but it's just how I feel. You don't want to live a life where you die, and then at your funeral, everybody just says, well, man, he worked really hard, because that's not it. That shouldn't be the point. Like Nak said, you have to be in a position where you enjoy what you're doing and you see yourself leaving that legacy. Like I've worked on some projects where I'm like, that's good. You know what I mean? But because I can feel what I've done in it. So don't feel like you have to overwork yourself, because the industry will do that to people, and then you'll end up young and burnt out and bitter and angry, and you're not helpful to anyone that way. So do what you can to just, take it easy, learn how to find your voice, have good people around you, but don't overdo it.
Beautiful.
Like, Brian, I had talked to a cinematographer here in Atlanta. He said the entertainment and media industry rewards excessiveness. So what's so funny is that you will get rewarded for that. The harder you work and the more extra hours, and you haven't seen your family, what's that going to do? They're going to give you more of it. So
yes,
you've got to set the line. And he was so honest about that, and transparent. They even have him say it, because most people wouldn't even say that. But he was telling me that there are people who've missed kids' graduations, and it's because they got into a groove, they got their dream job, and it just kept coming and never turned off. 10 years go by, so wait a minute, I didn't get married. So make those choices and kind of as you start. And another thing, as you're talking to, like you mentioned, Brian, looking at the reel after the credits roll, see what some of these jobs, how demanding they actually are versus others. There's some that when you're on a set, for instance, that it just never stops. Can you work 18-hour days? Are you better in an office environment? Just see what suits you. Because as you know, Brian, and Nak, like for instance, Nak, he's during the pandemic probably has never stopped. Both of you would never stop working. Some people,
especially him,
right, especially him. A lot of animation and television writers I know, they're still having their television writers' rooms right now. Nothing really changed. So just kind of take that in and see what suits your personality, so that you don't, as Brian said, because at a certain time, it may not come when you're out of college, but at a certain time, it may all catch up with you at one time, and you don't want that. You want a long career, right?
Always. That's the
exactly. Goal. Okay. Guys, so what are the both of you have kind of worked for, like you said, Brian, you started off at Hidden Beach. Nak, you have a crazy trajectory, but you've seen the highs and the lows. Any takeaways fundamentally with working for such a large conglomerate? I think both of you right now have done a lot for Disney, as opposed to smaller shops or independent. Like, what's your takeaway? Because a lot of kids, when they come out, they're looking for the big XYZ company, fill in the blank, that they want to work for and start their career with. But sometimes you may have to kind of prove yourself in other places, or they want to actually start their own. What's your takeaway from that as far as what path you're going, whether it be indie, smaller shop, huge company, that kind of thing?
I can quickly try to hop on that one. I think that I've worked for a couple different, in a couple different arenas, if you will. And I think that working for a large company is amazing and it's great, but there are, of course, pros and cons. I think the one thing would be the diversity of work. Like, it is great to be able to work on, like, I don't think a lot of people really realize how big a company like Disney is. Like, I'm technically, I'm a full-time employee for Disney, and the company, like, when you say that, people think, oh, hey, Frozen, yay. But they forget, like, you forget honestly how big the company is. Right. You forget, like, it's FX, it's Hulu, it's, ESPN, it's ABC, it's all of these things. Aside from Disney Plus, it's so many different things. So I personally love being able to work on such a wide array of projects, but I also know that sometimes, like, you might want to work on some things that are a little bit different. You might want to work on, however you see fit. And sometimes those smaller shops will allow for that. Sometimes you might want to work for a company that works with a Disney, but they also work with Universal, or they also work with Netflix, or whatever the case. Right. So I think that it's certainly pros and cons. Like, a large company will likely work to take care of their employees a lot better than smaller companies are able to, but it really kind of depends on just what your goal is and what your comfort level is. Because sometimes you might prefer working in a small boutique setting instead of working for this gigantic, corporate kind of thing. You know, I think that people hear corporate and the larger the company, I hate to say, but the larger the company is, the greater the likelihood of there being a lot of red tape. And the red tape is always hard to cut through. So you just can't, it just depends.
Nice. When I was working at Disney, I met this artist. His name was Gotti, and he was working at Disney as a motion graphics artist. And then eventually he decided to start his own company. Started small, and then the time I met him, he just sold his company to Disney for a couple $1 million. So I asked him like, hey, can you tell me about your journey? What was it like for you working at Disney and starting your own thing? Yeah. And he had this beautiful analogy of, you know, when you're working for a big company like Disney, you're like working at a cruise ship. This cruise ship has a big destination that it needs to go to. And every time this cruise ship has to move a direction, there's so many people that needs to approve that trajectory for the boat to move. So when you're working in this cruise ship, it's amazing. There's buffets, there's perks, there's shows, all this glamour and so many things going on. But sometimes you might feel very stifled, that your voice is not heard. There's so many steps that you have to go through to get approved and get anything done. But if you're working on a small studio and smaller companies, imagine that you're like a robot and you are able to go to many different directions, wear different hats, go into different trajectories that you never thought of before. And you're on this journey together. But this rowboat is very vulnerable. It might sink, you know, when the tidal waves hit, woof, you know, like it's gonna be very rocky. But it's also, you find your voice, you practice speaking your voice. So for me, working from big companies with Disney to small studios like Oddbot, I think there are so many beautiful things. With the Disney, you get to work with one of the best people that inspire you from the soul within, like, and the way they speak, the way they see their dreams, it's just really amazing. And then when you go with the smaller studios, you see like such passion. You see such like daydreaming of how can we push this industry? How can we do something new that has not been done before? So I think, you know, if you're starting out, I think there's two ways of going about this. And Brian also kind of like said this too, is first, so many people think about what company they look for. But what I say is the number 2 option, look for who you want to work for.
Right. Is
there like someone that really inspires you, an artist, as Brian said, a manager, a businessman that you really look up to, there's like an art director that you think is so fantastic, you know, like see like what company they work for, how can I get in line to kind of be in their bubble, in their world, as Brian said. And, you know, you might have to live with an uncle, you know, you might have to, you know, like live, you know, somewhere like not as ideal, but, you know, sometimes we have to eat dirt to pave our way for a brighter future.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And like to what you're both saying too, and people want to have the big companies, and that's fine, but there are ways, as Brian, you alluded to, there are production companies who work with all of those companies. So, which goes back to our point about the education piece, which I stress all the time. When you have to know the game you're playing and the room that you're going into, because, oh, wait a minute, I can work for XYZ company, who works for Disney and Netflix and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So, and if you decide to you just love Disney, fine, but at least you have the tools to make that decision. The worst thing in the world is when you're making a decision with only half the information there. So as long as you have the tools and you know what to play, your place, okay, I can do this, I can do Brian, Knox at this, you know what? And then you take your own, suggestions and your own tools and you apply it to the knowledge, and then you're on your way. Do whatever you want.
And right quick, that doesn't just apply to people in a creative space, guys. This goes for folks who are, literally, if you want to do law, if you want to do some type of legal whatever, or if you want to do anything, licensing, especially because, like I said, as a supervisor, one thing I'm super grateful for is that I get to do purely creative, meaning I get to go find these songs. We have a completely different team that does our licensing. and they handle clearance, our music clearance, etc. So all of those things are relative, but that what Morris just mentioned is still relevant because it's different at, at least on the supervision side. There are some places where you're going to have to do both. You're going to have to do the creative part, and you're going to have to, do the licensing part of it. And you're going to have to, do things that aren't probably in your description, but it just really depends on what you're comfortable with. But it's not limited to creatives, guys. I just wanted to stress that.
I'm glad you said that. Nak and I just had a class we were doing for school here in Atlanta, and he was doing his animation, and we were just telling them, like, if you don't know how to draw, there's still room for you in animation. You don't. Right. Again, that's what the conversation, and thanks to UCLA again for making this conversation heard, to break these norms and these unknown things that people just don't know. I know a lady named Fetla who she's a production manager, and she does is the money and the production. She doesn't talk to any of the actors, none of that, and she's doesn't get a lot of people in that. And some people because they want to be creative. Another part, they just may not know. They're great in math, right. They like finances, but why would I do movies? That's creative, but you can. Like you said, that idea and concept is not central to the entertainment industry. You can basically take that. If you're really good at science, tech, however it be, right. You could probably find your way into any industry, really.
Right.
But especially the entertainment industry. So Definitely. Good point, guys. Thanks for driving that home. That's excellent. Now, how about this? What would you each have done differently, though, when you guys were in school? Give me one thing that you said, if I would have just changed this one thing, because you both are super successful. You guys have a bunch of things that are coming up and a great career to go. But if there would be one thing you could go back and change from when you're college to when you entered, what would that one thing be?
Such a tricky question, man.
I have an answer for that. Yeah. I think one thing I would have changed is I would have been kind to myself. I think I realized how cruel I was to myself. I think I kept telling myself, oh man, this person did it, but I can't do it. Oh man, like this person, oh yeah, she can definitely do it. I can't. I'm just a loser. And every time I got a rejection, I was just like just destroy myself from within. And I think the thing I'm learning is this truth of abundance. You're on such a unique path. Just the fact that you can close your eyes and you can open your eyes, and then you can close your eyes and you look at a different direction. You just made an edit of your film. You're the director of your life. You can steer any way that you choose you want to go to. Look at the things, do the things that you love. So there's this abundance, but you have to be kind to yourself. Don't give up in the frustration. Don't give up in the failures and the no's. I am so thankful for all my past traumas, all the difficulties I had. Because my parents didn't have money, it taught me that money doesn't give me happiness. Because I was rejected, I was able to understand that project isn't for me. And, so many people say, just be happy, just be successful. But the more people I studied who are the most successful in life, like Oprah, J.K. Rowling, Steve Jobs, they've all failed on an epic scale. And so I began on this journey of changing the word fail to represent, fail stands for few attempts in learning. So now every time I fail, I'm so excited, like I learned something. I better not make that mistake again. If I do again, I'll learn again. So switching that thought. So I wish that I was kind to myself so that I'll be more happier, so that I could have been more giving, so that I could have been just sharing that joy more. Yeah.
How did you, and then we're going to go to you, Brian, but Nak, how did you, that mindset, because that's not an easy thing to do. Right. It sounds great, but especially at a young age, because you're still impressionable, there's things you just don't know. That's, that until you get maybe like late 20s, early 30s, what made you go to that and trigger that to say, I'm not going to beat up on myself, and you got your acronyms and started thinking that other direction? Was it what pivotal moment changed that?
I read this story about these two twin brothers who had an alcoholic father. And then the one twin brother became an alcoholic and just as abusive. And this other twin brother became the most successful person in the business industry. And then their grandmother went to these two twin brothers. And then the grandmother asked one alcoholic, abusive brother, why did you become an alcoholic? Why did you become so abusive? And the brother said, because my dad was an alcoholic. The grandmother went to the other twin brother and said, how did you become so successful? Like, why did you never touch alcohol and never be abusive? And the other twin brother said, because my dad was an alcoholic. So that taught me that in all the experiences that I'm experiencing, hearing that story, it taught me I can either let this be my falling, or I can use this as something to build my life on. And also the community that I had. While my parents were really brutal and telling me every day, your dreams will not come true, just give up, come back home, don't do it. I had amazing friends, amazing mentors who said, no, you can do it. So surrounding yourself with people who believe in you, setting boundaries with people who don't, thanking them in the process, like, thank you for critiquing me, but I'll surround myself with love and I'll continue to believe in it as long as I can keep going. I think that those two things in my life really shaped it.
Mm.
It's so hard to follow up any of this stuff with generic answers. I'm like,
man, I feel sorry for this dude, Brian, over this.
He's like, well, you have to restructure your life choices. And I'm like, I would have like probably not. No, I'm just kidding. I think if it were me, I would have probably taken, or I would have pushed myself to take more directing classes. I would have gone into directing, or at least taken the class for directing, or I would have said to take an editing class, because if y'all knew how much editors make, that should have been a fun one. But yeah, I mean, very similar to most of the stuff that Nak said. Like, it's, you really have to not be hard on yourself. I know it becomes so easy in an era where we have social media to be like, oh, they're killing it, I want to do that. And I got so many friends that was like, by the time I turn 21, I better have. And I'm like, 21, I'm 35. And I'm like, I am not, Mark Zuckerberg, and that's cool. Some people are going to get there, but at the same time, you're right. You can't beat yourself up too much. And I would have just said, learn and don't be afraid to learn. I think that was one thing that I was pretty good about, not being afraid to try different things. Why am I in this class? Who cares? Let's try to get something from it, and keep that slogan with you. I know a couple of years ago, ESPN had a slogan where it was never graduate. And when you say never graduate, that means you should always be learning. Just keep learning. And I would just kind of reinforce that more so than, in addition. But yeah, it would have been good to get a editing class so you can get a little bit of that editing money in there. Hey, they do all right.
Did you have mentors, Brian? Any mentors or relationships that you kind of held throughout since college or in the industry?
That's good. A lot of the people who I did look up to were slightly older than me, but not much, not like a full-fledged, all right, this is what whatever. Yeah. I did have, sort of similar to Nak's janitor story. I did have someone when I was early on at Howard, and we were like, brother, we hope you can stay up here, because my parents, they supported it and they wanted me to do it and everything, but it wasn't, we come from money. Shoot, I'm still paying my loans right now.
Same.
So shoot, I mean, you know what I mean? But we did have someone who was like, I believe in this kid. I've never met him. I met a guy who I met him through my pastor back in Birmingham. And this dude was like, I've never met him, but because of what my pastor told him, he was like, sure, I'll help him out a little bit. And that was big, because that kept me in school. And I had a couple professors I did keep in touch. I still talk to some of my professors from college, and they've been very key. And I've been able to fortunately come back and speak because I think I'm probably one of the only, or if I'm not the only one, it's less than 5 people who do what I do.
Wow. Okay. Great.
Beautiful.
Kind of in that vein, less than 5 people. I want to pivot into this next question because it's we're in the time now where we're seeing a lot of the media have shown different diverse voices in TV and film and media, and it's a good thing, right? What are both of you seeing? Obviously, everybody on this panel fits into that box, right? What are you seeing as far as your contacts and inner circles, and as far as is that a movement that you can see continuing? And what is your overall perspective about coming into business with the diverse, agenda going in, and how you can prepare yourself in the media now with that?
Yeah, if I can briefly talk on that one, I think, man, there are a lot of things that happen this year, a lot, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's the murder of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, et cetera. There's a lot that happened this year. And as a result of these things, I think that there has been a lot more of an effort to understand diversity. A lot of companies are taking a good, hard, long look at, are we doing enough to have different voices? I know I can personally speak for Disney when I say I think that they're doing a lot of initiatives to try to diversify a lot of rooms, which I'm grateful to see, but not just the rooms, the stories that we're telling. When I started at the Hive, I got in literally. I got in there in October of 3 years ago, and it was right before that February, Black Panther was getting ready to drop. And, I remember telling everybody, y'all don't understand how big this movie is about to be. And I think people would listen like, oh yeah, let's see how it goes. And then it happened, and it was like,
game changing.
and after that, now we're getting to a point where other stories are being told, and people are not as reluctant to tell a story about, whether it's not just Black stories, but please tell Black stories, but not just that. Like, we're exploring things, like we see how Lovecraft Country did on HBO and how humongous that was, but also even on, like I said, speaking for my company personally, Soul is coming out next month, and it is the first film with an African-American lead, and you got a Black co-director in there alongside Pete Docter. So there are more stories getting told, but I look at it like, I'll never forget when I saw that video of the little kids who had just found out that they were getting tickets to go see. I feel like it was in Atlanta. I could be wrong. It was Atlanta, wasn't it? Man, when I saw that little kid was on the table dancing, when he was on the table dancing, I shed tears that day because I know, like, man, to see this big character and you get to embody, you feel like a piece of you is in there, and it just sparks something in you to say like, yeah, I am seen, and to know that you are seen is everything. And yeah, there are a lot more projects coming. Like Marvel is getting ready to drop a movie, Shang-Chi, first Chinese superhero film. And we got a couple animation projects that are coming. So it's not just the same cookie cutter white character. We're doing some amazing things, and I look forward to every bit of it, but more so people in the room. Y'all go to HBCUs, they're going to be pursuing you. So just be ready.
Have and make and represent when you are called. So
yes,
it means doing your research. That means that's when all those internships and things that Brian and Nak was speaking of come into play. You've done all this free work, but now when there are projects that these companies want, you are prepared. So you've done the preparation. Here's the opportunity. Bam, come together. Right. What about you, Nak? Any comment on that at all?
Yeah, beautifully well said, Brian. So with the current state of affairs, with George Floyd, sorry, my accent, with Breonna Taylor, and even the cargo ship in the Lebanon that exploded, you see around the world how the inaction led to these like injustice. not taking care of all these problems in the world. And what we're seeing now is how we need to take actions to really systematically fix our society in the future to come. So I've also seen that with the studios too. And with like before, they were like, oh yeah, like diversity, yeah. And then you look at the script and it's all white cast. And I had to, this project just a couple months ago, I read a script and then room full of bunch of different people. And I had to call it out. I was like, why is everyone white? And then the director was like, oh, because they'd be pretty. And I'll be like, excuse me? I'm like, no, we can do better. And they changed the character based on that to be a person of color. So there is work needs to be done. But I also see how like the studios are taking the steps to do better. And for me, luckily in my career, most of my bosses were of female. And it was a lot of workplace that came with compassion. I think with a lot of my friends who had like male directors, it was all about the money, it was about the work and stuff like that. But with my experience of having female directors, it was about the community, getting the work done, but also at the same time, bringing that compassion to the project. And that really inspired me on the way I do my work. So with me, like if anyone like sends me a message and, you know, like it's all about building each other up. And how can we invite others who might not have had this experience, but at the same time, make sure that they're ready for this, that they're good, that we don't just include them because, you know, they're like diverse, you know, just for the sake of it, because that is not healthy for the company. So there is work that is being done.
And let me pivot on one thing you said, Nak, is that, and this is to all of you students who, when you get into these companies and you start your careers, notice what Nak did. He took the initiative to say, you know, what is this? Like, you know, why is this script looking like this? Right. And he stood up. So that took courage, man. And you know, as you become, what good is it if you're going to get there, but you're not going to take your part, you know, as a minority, as somebody with a diverse background, to speak up like he just did. When you're in these writing meetings or you're in these marketing meetings, it's your job to do that, but you excellently did, Nak. So great work, man. Great work.
Thank you.
Angel.
Yeah. Brian, we need to hang once this pandemic's over.
I'm down. Clearly, this man is
these two.
Grief.
Why do I see a production company in the making right now?
That's it, man. I know, right? Goodness gracious.
So a couple more questions, guys. We're getting on to an hour right now. So a couple more questions. Give us some tips and best practices for students whom are looking to get noticed by employers, both in a general sense, meaning no matter what area of entertainment or media, and specifically to each of your lines of work. So as a sync person in the animation department kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay, I'll start. Yeah, social media is insane. I follow this man named Gary Vee. He's just like a multi-millionaire, amazing, you know, person. And, you know, he just made this video. It's like, if you want to succeed, you know, like post something every day for the next 30 days. This is a challenge I give you. And I was like, oh, BS, like, that's not going to get me anything, you know? I was like laughing it off. And I was like, you know what, like, what if I got to lose, you know? So I just started posting my artwork every day for the next 30 days on Instagram. And on the 12th day, an art director from Apple saw my work. And it's like, hey, I like your work. Do you want to work on this project? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm storyboarding on this project. I don't think I can work on this with you. I'd love to, but unfortunately, the timing is not right. And she was like, I'll pay you double. And I was like, yes, ma'am. Like, I'm there. So now all my work comes from LinkedIn. That's how I met Morris. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Like, I'm not applying to places. They just message me. And you just have to realize that social media, as much as people want to villainify it, it is an amazing tool to connect you to a person anywhere in the world. Like, you can slide into Brian's DMs like, hey, Brian, your hype was so amazing. Your speech was amazing. You know, like, I just want to say, you know, thanks. Immediate connection. You know, like, people just send me code messages and they're like, hey, no, I'm sorry to bother you. Like, can we go on this call? Like, can you grab coffee? And some of them, I'm friends with them to this day. And, you know, like, we hang out, you know. the world is a crazy place. And one thing I want to give you is the power of hashtags. So don't just make a post on things. Instagram is on fire right now. You're able to reach so many people on Instagram, but more on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is even like the greatest era of LinkedIn right now. If you make a post on something that you're learning, on something you're, just truth of what you're trying to figure out, you can reach so many people out there. And with the hashtags, I want you to see each hashtag as a currency to meet someone new. So when I make a post about a drawing, I might put a hashtag on mental health, on depression, on bridge, on like a fashion. And each of these hashtags is helping me to connect with some different industries and different things that I never thought about. So use that to your full extent. And social media is ultimately branding. When you're applying for jobs, everyone will ask you, what is your social media? What are your links? And they're going to go through all your posts. They might even look into the post that you posted 5 years ago. Make sure it's all clean. Make sure you don't have anything that can jeopardize your dreams. And like, see how you're branding yourself with each post that you're making. For me, generally, because I felt so alone going on this journey, every post I make, every drawing I make, when you see it, when you see my post on writings and stuff like that, I want you to just feel loved. I want you to feel this warmth that, that we're in this together. So that's my brand. As an artist, if I can just share that compassion and love, even just an ounce, I've done my job. So ask yourself, how am I branding myself? And am I using social media to the fullest extent? If not, why? What is holding you back? And use this moment to figure yourself out and also forgive yourself and just be you in the kindest way that you can be. Yeah.
That's the job, Angel.
You went crazy. Well, let me piggyback on that, Nak, again.
Yes.
So, and then we're going to go to Brian's. But yeah, guys, for social media, we're in the time now where there's a etiquette for each kind of platform is getting to, right? So Instagram has something they do very well. Twitter is for basically comments, commentary. LinkedIn is excellent for anything professional, for getting, higher people to see your work, for just networking in general. So, understand what Facebook and the strengths of each one of those platforms. And as Nak was saying, there's some that as he said, we're in the age of LinkedIn so it's going to come a point, right, where it's not going to be such easy to get a hold of some of these people, right? So as Gary would always say, that undervalued attention that you can get now from a TikTok or Twitch as well, right? So look into that. I mean, Instagram is has gotten very competitive now, but that doesn't mean you can't go to another platform. And then also to what Nak said, the quality over quantity. He's using hashtags for this topic and that topic, and he's just not just random post. He's actually speaking to the world, so to speak, and actually going in. So it's that quality as not over quantity to these posts you all are making. So, because that's sometimes they're meeting you on LinkedIn. It might not be an interview. That might be your interview with them going through your profile. So look at that as that you're taking a part of yourself, not just a random post you're copying and pasting. So hopefully that'll help you guys. Brian, what do you have to say as far as somebody trying to get noticed in the general sense,
right?
In the sense.
I think it's the exact same thing that you guys have already touched on. I think that LinkedIn is huge for me personally. If you're looking to get companies on your radar, I got my job through LinkedIn. Really? And it was because I was working at another company and they initially reached out. I interviewed, didn't get the job then, but they remembered me from the interview, kept my stuff on file. Wow. And I ended up getting there not long after that. But I believe in that. I believe in not just what similar to what Nak said, it's what you put on there, like how I never post, but I am always sure that my resume is updated and the way that I format it, try to stand out in some type of way. In that intro section, it's relevant, you know, like you have to have something to make you stand out. Now, to the creative side, I think that there's a difference in how people reach out. I personally, and I'm a little bit older head, I don't particularly like when people hit me up on Instagram, because if you go to my Instagram, you'll see I never talk about my job. Hardly. It's mostly cereal and baby food, and it's insane because I had a 10-month-old earlier this year, so it's definitely, thank you. It's for that, and I know that that's what people do. But that being said, I also don't want to overlook how that's how some of y'all get in touch with people. But I also think don't reach out with people without knowing what they do. Research what they do so that you're not flying in the dark. Hey, man, I heard you're a music supervisor. What do you do? Nope. That's the difference from, hey, man, I saw that you worked on this project and I'm very interested to learn more about what it is that you're doing. I know that you do this project and that project. The more research that you do beforehand, the more likely someone will be willing to connect with you. And remember, I know I work for a large company. Everybody's like, I want to work there. Don't just look at the big companies. Look at other companies that are doing things that you like. That's where it should start. It should always start with what your interests are instead of, oh, they're big.
I want to add a couple more things. So another thing is, when you see jobs, just apply for it, because there are many times when I completely forgot about that I applied for this thing. And then like 6 months later, they're like, hey, you're hired. I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that. So you just never know. And, when you message people, it can be very daunting. And like, you have so much anxiety. Oh my gosh, I don't want to be a fool. This is such an amazing person. The best tip I got was ask for advice. So as Brian said, research, right? And just be like, hey, Brian, I heard your talk and this is really amazing. Love what you said about this. Can you advise me on this? And insert the thing. And then that'll make the other person more likely to respond to you and want to help you more, rather than give me a job, please notice me. That's not my department. Like, here's a recruiter, but then you want to build this relationship. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna tally this up. I think, Brian, you had gotten Sarah, you can communicate with her through the chat for her question. Yeah. But let's, for the community, and before we end out, I want to especially thank UCLA and Jay and April and Christian and the team over at UCLA for hosting this and working with Artist Spotlight. This has been a dream of mine since I started as a Bison to spread the word of entertainment, because I didn't know anything. I didn't have, it was like, well, I guess I go take a film class. I don't know. I mean, so thank God that there's a Brian and a Nak too, who because sometimes it's just, to be transparent, you see somebody who looks like you a little bit, it just triggers something else in the brain. When I met the late great Andre Harrell, I mean, it just, you do what? You have a record? What? I didn't know that. That's a thing, So just, Brian, I appreciate you representing from coming from the HBCU, man, and doing what you've done in the industry and all of the progressive you've made in that area, man. Please keep doing what you're doing, man. You're making us all look good. I can tell you have the kind of personality that you just want to give, and I hope you'll be not even outside of our webinar series here, a source of mentorship to us, to our students, and a guidance piece that we can kind of, as we talk, me and Jay structure this, that we can move forward on. Nak, you my man, 100 grand, you always come through, brother. You have the right. Because and one thing about you, Nak, I like to say is that the undertone of all your success is this love and this peace and this mindset that seems to have a undertone to everything that you do. And I think that's a part of what your success is, because like Brian said, it's early in the conversation about, learning when to turn it off. That's the big thing. Like, what do you guys want to do? What do you want to do? Go research it, not just because it's Disney or Netflix or whatever, but what do you want to do? What are you good at? Who do you want to work with? And get to that core then you could come to Brian, and then you could come to Nak and Jay, and they can better push you in that direction because you know what you want to do, what you're good at, what you're passionate about, and the rest is just smooth sailing. You guys can do any of these things. It's not, they can teach you all the harder technical things, but it's that attitude and how you want to get there. So last question, everybody. Last piece of advice, Nak, Brian, to everyone, every student, no matter discipline, give us one little tidbit to kind of keep them motivated, especially in COVID. Hopefully the spring will be better, but give me something to kind of keep them motivated to go further in this industry.
Brian?
Yeah, sure. To kind of go back on what you just said, Morris, I think that once upon a time, there was a stigma that students from HBCUs weren't insert, that they weren't capable, that they weren't this, that they weren't that. And now that has become a thing of the past. It should. Yeah. If there's one thing that 2020 has taught us, shout out to Kamala, and shout out to like all of these people who have been working for so long from HBCUs. Right. You are capable, you are talented, and you are able to compete with whoever you're in the room with. Never forget that. Like, I know when I was coming out, and that's one thing about Howard, and I know a lot of HBCU peeps can kind of attest to it. Like, people from Howard have a certain swagger, but I want that to be the case for everybody. I don't care if you went to, Clark. I don't care if you went to Bethune-Cookman. I don't care if you went to Tennessee State, Fisk, you name it, Tougaloo, who cares? Wherever you went, you should know that you are capable of competing, because every single school has somebody on that roster that is a killer, that's a beast, that is incredible at what they do. And you are no different. It starts with you. It starts with understanding that what you're learning is going to be applicable, and you're going to bring something so amazing and so specific to the table that someone needs to hear it, and you ultimately could have the next world-changing idea. I don't even want to say $1 million idea, because money, whatever, but change the world, man. That's the goal. That should be the mission. I know that's like half of these schools' mission statements, man. Go change the world, because it's in you.
All right, Brian. Now you get into your bag now, man. Don't let me get in this Grant Cardone success panel y'all got down. Come on,
right. Yeah, it's there.
The success tickets.
That's cool, man. Yeah.
Nak, you want to end it off with your last bit of advice for everyone?
Yeah, when I graduated from college, I applied for like 200 jobs and I got rejected by all of them. And I watched this Lady Gaga documentary on Netflix, and she was talking about how she's like, jamming it in the nightclub, and people are throwing beer bottles at her, like calling her names and stuff. But she kept saying, I'm an artist, I'm a rock star, I'm a rock star, I'm a rock star. So when I graduated from CalArts, I kept saying to myself, like, I'm a director. But after 200 rejections of job, I was just ready to quit. And it was at that moment, I just thought about the documentary again. And I said, you know what? I'm a director. I'm going to direct no matter what. And the following week, Disney Junior called me and said, hey, do you want to direct on this episode? I was about to quit the week before, like completely from the industry. So you just never know how many degrees away you are from success. So I wish you the kindness for yourself, love for yourself, to just keep going. Even my parents didn't believe in my dreams. And ultimately, I had to practice that kindness and give myself that love, as hard as it was, to keep on going. It's not going to be easy. I literally cried every day going to CalArts, working, trying to feed myself, help my family. But when I graduated from college, my friends who became lawyers, doctors, they messaged me and said, "Nah, you followed your dream." And, I resent my parents for dictating how I should live my life. And I wish that I have the courage to follow your dreams. And I'll just tell my friends, it's never too late. You can always follow your dream starting now. And I had two friends who quit being a doctor and started being an artist. They started drawing.
Man.
So part of my friends are like, "No, you ruined their lives," and then I'm like, "Oh, my bad." But do whatever it is that is good, kind, and makes you happy. And then real quick, Morris, we have some questions from people. Do you have time?
I wanted to see if we could. Do you think we can get that right quick?
Yeah, go ahead. You talking about from Saren right here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think in the comments too, I think there was some.
To the comments, looking at it. Go ahead. If you guys can see, I see the one. What was your favorite project to work on, each of you, right there?
Yeah. So for me, it was with Disney. We got to work on this VR short film. We got to really innovate, and I just drew my way out. My art director, she always had her door closed, but then in my office at Disney, I always have my doors open. So I'm in this VR drawing 6 hours a day or something, right? And I'll hear the giggles. And ha 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 ha. And I open my headset up, and there were 6 different people I never met at Disney looking at what I was doing. Like, what are you doing now? I was like, oh, I'm doing this VR project. And I'll show them what I was working on. And after 3 months of that, the directors went into a meeting to sell this project to the executives. And then the talk became, the executive said, hey, yeah, this project is great, but we want to hire Nak. And I realized one of the people that went inside my room when I was in this VR, and being a nerd and just being so passionate as what I was doing and showing my work, was one of the executives. Wow. So that really taught me to just show your work, push yourself further, and just keep going. Yeah.
Shoot. Yet again.
Favorite project?
Yeah, beastin'. It's a tie for me, and they both were with during my time with Disney. One is when we worked on the trailer or the teaser for Lady and the Tramp. And the reason that one is so specific is because I got a chance to get my wife singing on the trailer. That junk's crazy. The amount of stars that had to line up for that to happen is insane. So that one's always going to be pretty special to me. And coming soon is Soul. I can't wait for people to see this film. That thing is special when you look at, being a Black dude who does jazz. Man, in the first 2 minutes when I see him teaching kids, because I did a jazz camp once teaching kids, I was full tears before anything even happened, because I was like, this is it. This is my story. This is my song, man. So I can't wait for people to see Soul. I'm glad we got a chance to do a trailer for that.
Oh, coming up.
Yeah, Christmas Day.
I'm Vickers. I love it.
Yeah.
And then real quick, so Saren posted this beautiful message saying, hi, thank you for a very inspiring webinar today. I want to take advice and give you guys my contact info. I really respect all of you as an aspiring filmmaker who would love to learn every aspect of the industry. And then she gave us an email down here. Saren, I would like to encourage you that you should be the one that contact us. Instead of us contacting you. I just want to give you that little piece of advice. We would love to, have a conversation with you, but have that initiative to research a bit and then connect with us on our proper platform.
Gotcha. Great advice. And guys, I forgot one thing too. We kind of brushed over this. Brian, Nak, as far because you guys have been in managerial positions and have, in the corporate space. Talk really quickly about as far as management in the creative sense that you all are in, any kind of from the business sense that you may have to know when you're taking off your creative hat and you're as far as a producer, you're managing staff, legal, marketing, having to work with other departments and be that liaison. How have you adjusted to that in your career? So when you're kind of going into this corporate environment, but the business acumen that has to come along with that. If you could speak on that just briefly.
Oh, Brian, you're muted.
God dog it. I'm sorry. I think it's all relevant, man. I think that, that's why I really wanted to especially hone in for all of the people that don't see themselves as creative, it all matters. I think that when you're in any role, it's collaborative is really the key. All the best leaders and all of the best people that I've liked to work under don't see me as a subordinate. They see me as a collaborator. And I think that that's one thing that I firmly recommend if you're looking to get into licensing once again, start researching PROs, performance rights organizations, start researching folks who work at labels in various departments, whether that's TV, film. If you are on the business side and you want to do business, start looking at folks who work at either labels, but not just labels. Look at publishers, look at pitch houses, look at studios. I think that you have to be very varied in your approach. Don't just look at, the big things. Look at small boutique spots. Like, consider that all of that stuff is super relevant and it all still matters. But I firmly believe that the best way that you can manage any type of managerial thing, or anytime you're working with anyone, is to approach it from a collaborative standpoint. Don't stand in anyone's way. Find a way to push them forward, and you in turn, I think, will accelerate as well.
Nak, thank you, Brian. Thank you. Nak, I know you've done a little bit of the management side of yourself. Can you talk about share any of your process? Because this kind of gets glossed over, especially in the media industry. Everybody knows the lights and cameras, but talk about the business acumen that you had to learn in your role, any kind of management, your process, how you communicate with staff, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah. So the number one tip that I kept hearing from the older folks was don't take it personally. And, that also led to some of the toxic behaviors. And I understood what they mean. It's like, don't be such a baby to your thing. It's going to get killed, it's going to get destroyed and things like that. But at the same time, how can we not take it personally when we're human on a basic level? So I think that's the approach that I went when I was managing people under me. How can I really, be compassionate? How can I build people up with this journey? Just be vulnerable, be human. I had directors who never had lunch with their crew. I always had lunch, even with the PAs. Whenever they had any suggestions, I'll go to one of my interns. I'm like, hey, what do you think? Do you have any ideas? And while other directors, I saw them ignoring everyone else but themselves, I took ideas from everyone, and that really helped me to really get the things that we needed from this project. Another lesson I learned was the art of managing up. How do you work with people who are above you, but they suck? Like, they give you the worst ideas. And it's like, I worked with an art director that had the most horrible character designs. I cannot tell her, you suck. Like, what's wrong with you? I'll be like, oh, what is your reason for choosing this color instead of this color? So you have to be smart. The art of managing up. With the executives, they throw some of the dumbest suggestions. It's like, oh my gosh, like if I listen to that, I'm gonna get fired, but they're gonna blame me. So I'll be like, okay, can you tell me why you thought that way? Why you're giving me this idea? They're like, oh, because you do this. And Pete Doctor also gave me another really amazing note. And he said, Nak, every time you receive a note, make sure you do 2 versions of it. The first version is their note. You just do it as they say.
Yep.
Second version is you yourself. Your voice is fully there. It's who you are. So that when the executives come back, hey, did you do my note? If you don't prove to them that you listen to them, they'll start bad-mouthing you. It's like, oh man, this person doesn't listen. Right. He's so egotistic. We cannot work this person. But if you show them their notes and say, hey, we took your advice, but actually my voice, this true thing, I think this works better because of X, Y, Z. Now you have this leverage to work with the executive and say, we took your suggestion, but I think this is a better solution. What do you think? And you have to play this dance of allowing people to work. It can get crazy. People lose it during this dance. But it's kind of like Game of Thrones, Like I literally thought my head can get chopped anywhere. Like which house do I listen to? Which executive do I listen to? Which executive is gonna save me? Who's gonna chop my head off? But at the end of the day, staying true to who you are and being smart enough to rise above all the occasions.
I saw by your facial expressions, Brian, that you had some management.
I feel Brian's expression. I feel it. Brian, you're muted again.
God dog it. It's a day-to-day. It's a part of the job. Notes are the job. You have to approach them with the sense of humility and to not just because if otherwise the jump will make you like, right. It'll drive you insane. So you have to approach it like Nak said. You have to do how you feel, but also not let the jump wear you down.
Got it. Well, everybody, I appreciate you guys coming. Brian, Nak, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your time. We really appreciate it. Please continue. Well, you guys have always been a friend to the platform. So continue to be mentors. We love you guys. We love what you're doing. Guys, please check out Soul. You can see Brian's work. Thank you to Jay, April, Christian, UCLA. I appreciate this opportunity to get the word out to our lovely students of all of our HBCUs, specifically Clark in Atlanta, Morehouse and the ones in Atlanta. But we got more things coming up for you all, Artist Spotlight and UCLA, Anderson. So you guys keep, spread the word to other students. So again, it's not just, as Brian just said, it's not about creative. If it's a business students, if it's tech students, they can all benefit from these discussions. So guys, have a great day. Stay safe. And we appreciate you and continued luck and success in your careers, gentlemen.
Thank you
Thanks so much. Glad to be here.
Sending love to you all.
Let's go.
Thank you,
you know.